Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Michael here. Happy Wednesday. I am recording this lesson for you guys ahead of time because, as you're watching this, I'm in Alabama, probably on a beach, hopefully not getting eaten by sharks. Today, we get to look at a really fun topic. I'm pumped about it. You might not be, but I'm actually really excited about it. It's called logical fallacies. And so, you guys are writing your persuasive essays. And in order to be persuasive, we talked last time about ethos, pathos, and logos, right? Logos is an appeal to logic, if you remember. It's using fact, statistic, and logic to make a case, and that gives you more credibility. We talked about that last time. Today, I want to talk about something called logical fallacies. And a logical fallacy is also known as illogical reasoning. Basically, it's when you use reasoning that doesn't make sense to try and persuade someone of something, right? And so if you use poor logic when you're trying to persuade someone, it waters down your credibility, it weakens your essay, and it makes you sound unreliable as a writer. Readers who don't recognize logical fallacies in a writer's work, and if your reader recognizes the logical fallacy in your work, they will tend to be suspicious of everything else you've written, which ironically is a logical fallacy. But let's avoid that altogether, right? So you guys may have looked at some of the stuff on your student guide, but I want to go over a couple of logical fallacies that we see at work. And so, our first one, if you can see my handy dandy whiteboard here, is called overgeneralization. If you want to take notes on these, this might be a good idea. So, overgeneralization, ladies and gentlemen, is a statement that applies to too many cases. Let's write that down. Hopefully you can see this. And we can use a fun example. The statement, all teachers are humorless creatures eager to fail all of their students. False, right? That is an overgeneralization. Now, is there some cold-hearted hermit out there that does just that? Possibly. But you can't say all teachers. That would be overgeneralization. You could say some teachers, or even a few teachers, are humorless creatures eager to fail all of their students. That might be true. But as a whole group of people, all teachers are eager? No. Right? That's overgeneralization. Our next logical fallacy is something called circular reasoning. And circular reasoning, ladies and gentlemen, is when the support for your statement is just your statement in different words. Let's go ahead and write that down too. The support for your statement is just your statement in different words. Wow. That writing is definitely going at an angle. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so an example of this, let's see. You have to save enough money to pay your bills each month because your bills have to be paid. It sounds good, right? But if we stop for a second and parse out the logic of it, all the conclusion is doing is stating the premise in different words. You have to save enough money to pay your bills each month because your bills have to be paid. You haven't actually concluded anything different than what you've already stated. It's like saying you have to have enough money because you have to have enough money. Right? At some level it's true, but it's a fault or a fallacy of logic, right? Because that's not a strong enough case by itself. So circular reasoning, once again, the support for your statement is just your statement in different words, right? It's like saying, I said so because I said so. Well, you got to give me more than that, right? So again, logical fallacies, ladies and gentlemen, when these find their way into your work, they tend to weaken your argument, and they tend to make a reader take you less seriously. Now, if the goal of persuasive writing is to get someone on our side about an issue, or to persuade them of how something is or how something should be, one of the worst things you could do is employ these logical fallacies, because then your readers will fail to take you seriously. I want to look at 3 more of them. The next one is called the bandwagon appeal. My marker is not cooperating. Oh, there we go. Bandwagon. Let's just shorten it to bandwagon. Well, the fallacy of bandwagon, or the fault in logic, is lots of people agree on something, so it must be right. Or something must be right because a lot of people agree on it. Why is this poor logic? Because just because everyone agrees on something doesn't mean that it's logical. It just means most people agree on it. Right? Albert Einstein is quoted for having saying, "What is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right." But an example of the bandwagon would be, well, just about everyone likes a MacBook computer, so you should buy one. Again, a little bit of that's overgeneralization, but it's also bandwagon. And what bandwagon feeds off of is our human desire to fit into a group of people, right? That's just part of being human, is we want to fit in, and we want to do what people are doing because we're made to be in a relationship and made to be included in things, right? And so what bandwagon does is it appeals to that human desire, but in an illogical way. And you know who uses this all the time? Is your friends, the advertisers, right? They are using this to manipulate you into buying their product. Everybody likes Nike shoes. You should definitely buy them. Everybody I know eats at McDonald's once a week, so you should definitely go. Right? No, that's illogical. Just because lots of people are doing something doesn't mean it's the most logical thing to do. Right? That is a logical fallacy, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, well, the last one on your list is called loaded language. And loaded language is when basically you use very strong positive or negative words that fill a reader or listener up with an emotional response. And you're trying to use those words to trigger an emotional response to make them do something. Logical fallacy, right? For example, if you've ever seen those Sarah McLachlan commercials with the Adopt the Animal Shelter, in the arms of an angel, there's like that mangled dog looking at you, right? If someone were to come on that commercial and say, hey, you should adopt a dog, otherwise only cold-hearted, horrible, evil, ruthless people don't adopt our adorable, yet slightly traumatized, but very obedient and cute dogs. Like, whoa. There's so much language in that that's trying to make me feel something. But is it logical? No, not necessarily. Right? Pathos is different than logos. Pathos is an emotional appeal. But when you try to apply emotional appeal to logic, you end up with this logical fallacy. None of my markers are working. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. But again, loaded language is when you use positive or negative words meant to shake up emotional grounds. And it's a fault of logic because if we're trying to argue with facts, statistics, and logic, that's not going to prove anything. Okay. So these are 4 logical fallacies. And what's interesting is I bet if you turn on your TV to many news stations or many advertisement things, you would find a lot of these employed all over the place, right? You would find a lot of these logical fallacies existing in pop culture. Another thing you might find is a logical fallacy that's not on your terms and charts, but I think it's important for you guys to know. It's called argumentum ad hominem, right? And again, my marker's not working. I apologize, otherwise I'd write that down. This isn't going to be on a test or anything, but I just think it's interesting for you guys to know. Argumentum is Latin for argument. Ad hominem is Latin for to the man. So, an argumentum ad hominem is when you disqualify something someone says logically based on the character of that person, right? What's fascinating about this is most of the 2016 political election, if you watch the debates, there's not a lot of logical debate going on. There's actually a lot of argumentum ad hominem, which is, again, one more time, it's when people disqualify another person's logic based on that person's character. So a person may present a fully logical statement, and the logical fallacy is to say, well, they're a horrible person, so their logic must be wrong. Now, mind you, they might be a horrible person. I'm not saying anything about either one of the candidates in that election. But you can't just disqualify someone's logic because of someone's character. That is a mistaken logic, right? Even if the person does have bad character, it doesn't necessarily mean their logic is bad. So again, that one's not going to be on the test, but avoid that one in your persuasive essay as well. So these are logical fallacies: overgeneralization, circular reasoning, bandwagon, and loaded language. If you guys have any questions as you're writing your persuasive essay, if anything else is coming up, please feel free to shoot me an email. I am available. It's michael.brooks, Brooks, at iacademyglobal.net. So hope you're having a wonderful week, and I will see you guys when I get back. Take care.